And just allow your senses to withdraw. Allow them to pull gently inwards from being hooked in the world around you. Gently bring them in to the world inside. Just ever so gently pull that energy of sensation and perception that's like all of these antennae around our bodies, constantly flitting and flickering, picking up every sight, every smell, every sound in the world around us. Just pull them all in. Draw them into the inner world. And allow that awareness, that attention and focus that you've pulled inward, allow it to anchor itself in your breath. Let that awareness just merge into the breath. Most of us think of the breath as just one very quick motion. But actually, if you become really aware, you can notice the opportunity to feel that breath actually flowing in as it comes in ever so gently just across the upper lip, just into the nose. Can you actually feel it? As you inhale, can you feel that slight change in the space just above your lip and just below the nose? See how deep and awake your awareness can be. Can it be so subtle that you can actually feel the air flowing just across that space below the nose, just as it's about to come in. And can the awareness stay so sharp with that breath as it flows all the way in and then all the way out? And if the mind wanders, don't worry, just bring it back. And just see what happens when all of your attention and awareness is anchored in the breath. And if you do get distracted, don't worry, just allow the thoughts or any of the distractions to just be like little clouds, wispy clouds that are blowing across your awareness, which is like a spacious, infinite blue sky. And just every once in a while, there's a tiny wispy cloud that passes through. Not a big deal. The awareness goes back to the spaciousness of the sky between the clouds. Just keep drawing that awareness back to the breath, back to that spaciousness between the thoughts, between the distractions. Ever so gently, bring the palms of the hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Open the eyes and lower the hands. Welcome to Satsang. Beautiful. So beautiful to be together with you all. What is unconditional love? Well, as far as a definition, it's quite simple. Unconditional meaning no conditions. The only way to do that is to love essence rather than or in addition to form. Meaning, if I only love the form, if I only love someone's physical form, now on the most superficial level, that would be just lust or attraction, that I just love what it looks like. But sometimes it goes a little deeper. Sometimes I love what it says to me, what it does, how it makes me feel, how it treats me, the money it brings home. And there's a lot of things other than just what a body looks like. But if all I love is that body, whether it's the appearance, whether it's how it acts toward me or in the world, whether it's the type of status or wealth or whatever else it may have around it, charisma, I mean, what it can do, its abilities. If all I love is that form, well, form is constantly changing. That's the nature of form. The nature of nature is it changes constantly. So if all I'm loving is form, well then it can't possibly be unconditional, because as that form stops looking like or acting like or treating me like that which I loved, I'll no longer love it. If I love the person who is this very charismatic, strong, and, macho this and whatever, and then the person ends up getting sick or injured or, God forbid, aging or whatever else may happen during the course of time, well, then suddenly I no longer love. So that's not unconditional love. That's a mix of attraction and lust and need and desire and all of those sorts of things. Unconditional love is, I may appreciate the form. I certainly may look at someone and say, oh, God, you're so beautiful. But what I'm really loving is essence, which doesn't change. Soul, spirit doesn't change. It means someone I love may make a life decision that I really don't approve of, but I love them anyway. If you don't love them anyway, it's not real love. Because then all you're loving is what that body's going to do, the actions that it does, the choices it makes. If someone I say I love acts in a way, speaks in a way, lives in a way that I don't agree with or I don't approve of, and I no longer love them, well, it wasn't unconditional. I may certainly not approve of their actions, because remember, unconditional love is of essence, of soul. It doesn't mean I'm going to love everything you do. This is a place where we misunderstand it, right? Sometimes we'll say to someone, but you're supposed to love me unconditionally. Well, that doesn't mean that I'm going to love everything you do. It doesn't mean I'm going to love everything you say. If parents really love their children unconditionally, it doesn't mean that when the child comes home having been, expelled from school for lighting a teacher on fire, that the mother's going to say, oh, I love that. That's so great. God, I love that you did that. But it means that she's going to not stop loving the child. And there's a very important distinction. Unconditional love is about essence, soul, divinity. So even though you lit that teacher on fire, which makes me so angry, and I disapprove of it so deeply and fully, and you are grounded for the next 6 months, nonetheless, I don't love you any less. My love for you has not wavered. You are no less worthy of my love. You are no less deserving of my love. I'm not going to make broad statements about what a worthless human being you are, because you're not. But I'm also not going to approve of the action. And that's the important distinction, is unconditional love is of who you are, core, essence, divinity, soul. The stuff that we reserve judgments over. We may approve of it, we may not, we may appreciate it, we may not, we may agree with it, we may not. We may enjoy it, we may not. That's of form, of body. And it's an important distinction, especially with children, especially with spouses, that we should always aim for unconditional love. It's a good question for Valentine's Day anyway, right? We should aim for unconditional love. As the one who loves, I want to be able to love you unconditionally. And what that means is that I need to drop into my soul that loves your soul, that loves your essence, that loves the divine in you, even if I very strongly disapprove of some choices you make. And that I'm able in the relationship to make it really clear that I don't love you any less. My love for you has not wavered. And your choices have consequences. And I don't think this is wise. I'm going to try to convince you to think about something in a different way. Not because I love you less, but because we are both soul, spirit, and form. We're both. And when you're in relationship with someone, you've got relationships on so many levels, even with the same being. The the dilemma that happens and the mistake that a lot of us make, especially with children, especially with spouses and loved ones like that, is we make statements about the entirety of the being based simply on something that has to do with form. I hate you. You are worthless. You are horrible. You are this. You are that. Which is a statement about the full pervasiveness of that person's being. When really all that's happened is we disapprove of, or we have been hurt by, an action or a word or a choice made by the body, the form. Maybe precipitated by the ego, the ignorance or desire or greed or all of these things. But none of that has anything to do with soul or essence or consciousness. So it's really important as parents especially for children to know that their worthiness as beings on planet Earth, that the core of who they are is not about the action that has just gotten them grounded for 6 months. That you still love them. They're still divine. And they're grounded. Because they made a choice that you need to make sure they never make again. And as a way of helping them understand the law of karma, right? Actions have consequences. So as lovers, as people who love others on any level, let's always remember that if we ever use the word love or we ever aim toward love, to make sure that it's the deepest level possible, that it's on the level of soul, it's of the fullness of the being of the other, which, by the way, is not limited to human beings. We experience that with trees, with Mother Ganga, with other rivers, with nature, with creation, with animals, with so much. Love isn't limited to a human being who can love us back. Love is our nature. And so to share it is our nature. And so you want to make sure that you don't get limited by that ego that says, I don't love you anymore because you did this or you did that. Let yourself be bigger than that, deeper than that, higher than that, more than that. Give yourself the opportunity to really love, even when your ego is damaged. Ego, even when you're disappointed. Even when you didn't get what you wanted. Can you still love? Can you still find love in you, even with a damaged ego? Even with disappointed expectations? That's the great opportunity we've been given. And that's why unconditional love is just as beneficial, if not more, for the one who's doing the loving as for the one who's being loved. Because to be able to actually love another unconditionally opens our hearts in the most powerfully exquisite way. And again, it doesn't have to be a human being. It can be animals. It can be trees. It can be blades of grass. It can be God, of course. We sing every night, Sabse Unchi Prem Sagai, The highest form of love is love for the divine. So let's use this beautiful excuse opportunity of Valentine's Day to re-remind ourselves what love really is and what the possibilities of it are for each of us, rather than getting co-opted into a holiday that's been hijacked by Hallmark or some other business trying to sell us something. Other questions? Yes.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Namaste.
I'm from San Diego. I just got here like a week ago.
Welcome.
Thank you. And we're talking about generosity and unconditional love. And it's quite surprising to walk down the streets and see all the beggars and people asking for money and wanting something. And you were talking about a couple of days ago, the creator and the creator are one. And everything's the self. And so I guess bringing the unconditional love into daily life when we see these beggars and people hungry and needing things, and I don't know if they're scammers or what's going on, and I see the animals, the cows, the dogs, they're hungry as well, and I feel like I want to give food to people, and it's really just quite confusing how to move through it all. And who do I give to, and who do I not, and how much do I give, and what does it mean to be generous, and all these questions come through.
Yeah, beautiful. Love and generosity in a place like India, where everywhere you turn there's someone or something in need. And you know, it's interesting because you mentioned you're from San Diego. I'm originally from LA. Lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for a while, and spent most of the first 25 years of my life insulated from that form of poverty. We'd see it in New York. I remember we'd go to New York for Thanksgiving. My mother was from there, and you'd see beggars on the streets. But at that time, you didn't see it in LA, at least not in LA where I was. You saw it a little bit in San Francisco, not so much, and certainly not in places like Palo Alto where I was at that time. Not that it didn't exist, you just didn't see it. It was kept separate from us. It existed in areas that we didn't go to. And it's so interesting now because when I go back to LA, now you see it everywhere. My parents live in Santa Monica, and you walk down the streets of Santa Monica, and there's homeless people everywhere. And I see India, especially for those who come, just to visit rather than to live. I see it really as a way to wake up that within us, which is needed, not only in India, but it's needed everywhere. Yes, people here on the streets need it. And yes, people in San Diego need it. And yes, people in other parts of America and other parts of the world need it. India just is such a sensory overload of need. It's such a greater percentage of those who need. that it's so much more overwhelming. But I really take it as that which awakens within us the awareness of how much the world needs. Because I find myself so much more aware of need now, wherever I go in the world, having been here. And the questions you raise are really important ones about how much to give, what is generous, how to love. And of course, there's answers on so many levels. I mean, there's answers on the personal level of you with a finite sum of money walking down the street having to decide who to give what to. But then there's answers on a much bigger level around the choices that we all make as human beings here on earth. Because Mahatma Gandhi said very beautifully, there's always enough for everyone's need and never enough for anyone's greed. And without getting too much into the science of sociology or political science or any of those subjects, we really could actually have a planet in which we didn't have hungry, homeless people. This is not an inevitable situation. It's not inevitable in India. It's not inevitable in Los Angeles. It's not inevitable anywhere in the world. It's a situation that is created based on choices that those of us who have the luxury to choose make. And so I think on a personal level, I think our responsibility is really on several levels. I think we have a personal responsibility to those who happen to be thrust into our particular karmic aura, as in, you are the one in front of me, while there may be millions of people like you in the world, you are the one who happens to be in front of me, which means I've got some level of a karmic responsibility with you. And it may be to give them some money. It may be to give them a sandwich. It may be to give them nothing other than looking at them and seeing the humanity in them and not turning your head around. I remember when I first came to India and was in cars in big cities like Delhi, and people would beg, kids would come up to the car in the middle of the road, and instinctively I would obviously give whatever I had out the window. I mean, you come in from America and suddenly you've got starving kids begging at your window. Of course, you're going to give them whatever you've got. And it was explained to me very clearly that that was not a good decision for several reasons. Number one, because if you give to one, then 50 of them run into the middle of the street and they end up getting hit by cars because they come to you when the light's red. You give to them. By the time all 50 of them come out of the woodwork because there's a car that's giving, traffic has started. And there's innumerable accidents and injuries and deaths. And also because the money is not actually going to the kids. It's actually going, into a much more mafia situation that now we know a lot more about than we did a few decades ago. So it was explained to me not to give, and I followed along, but it was very important to me that I not deny their humanity, that I not develop the ability to look away, even if I wasn't going to be able to give them anything. I didn't want to develop an ability within myself to be able to look away. And so now whenever they come up to the car, I look at them. And I look at them with as much love as I possibly can, and I sit in the incredibly uncomfortable situation of not giving them something, which is just awfully uncomfortable. But I don't let myself look away. Because I think we are called upon not just to respond to the person in the moment, but to respond to the humanity of everyone. And what that means is that to the extent that you can give the person in the moment something, give it. Give it. Whether it's money, whether it's a sandwich, whether it's an apple from your bag, whatever it may be. They're worse off than you are. Give them something. But we're called upon to do more than that. $1 bill, 50 rupees, 5,000 rupees. It's not enough. It's not really the answer. And that's this other level, which is that we are called upon every time our heart breaks in seeing one of those people. I think we're called upon to reevaluate how are we living in society in which we become complicit in the fact that that is okay. And each of us is going to respond to that in a different way. And whether it's that you change exactly how you live, whether it's that you end up supporting a lot more nonprofit organizations or starting a nonprofit organization or doing something or shifting your consciousness. I mean, whatever it's going to be. We've got to respond on a higher level as well, because systemic change is needed. So allow yourself to respond with generosity and love on both levels. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
Actually, namaste.
Stay.
I have two questions. First one, if you always feel unconditional love, or if sometimes come also to you some feelings that overwhelm you, or you don't feel that, and have you response? And the second question is, like, when I feel that actually I start to feel that with my close relatives, with my partner. I don't have kids yet. Usually I think it teach everybody what is it for the kids. And I feel it for a planet, I feel it for a crab when I see. But it's sometimes very difficult for me to feel it for like simple people which try to either cheat me, even if it's for like, I don't know, tuk-tuk driver for money, or somebody for a time especially, what in India usually it means nothing for people the time, so I very feel like it's taking from me, or like cheating or something like that, which like shakes something inside,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
understand.
Like usually when I'm here, the people who I don't know, but I feel like, wow, connection. But when they start go against me, it's sometimes very difficult. I try to go to my higher self and take a response, but not always it's happening.
I
If
get
you
it.
have,
Sure,
some
yeah.
hack or some response.
So, unconditional love. Yeah, it's hard when the ego gets hurt. That's the challenge. It is, as you've said, so much easier to feel it. For the creation, for other aspects in that creation, for those who are just that you see on the on the pathway, who you pass by. It's much easier to feel that for them than for those who are close, from whom you want something and you're not getting it. That's the challenge. Because see, trees and flowers and blades of grass and random people you're walking with, they're not challenging my ego. There's nothing I'm wanting of them that they're not giving me. And so it's very easy to feel that love for them. But for a loved one, family members, partner, we've got agendas, we've got expectations, how they should be, how they should act, how they should treat us. And so that unconditional love is much harder, absolutely. But that's where it's the opportunity to actually ask yourself, can you distinguish ego from soul? Yeah, the ego is injured, but can the soul still be connected to their soul? Can you distinguish ego from heart? Ego is hurt. Heart can still love. And that's a critical thing for actually deep happiness in your life. Because our egos get injured a lot. It's just part of the package deal of being human. People are going to do things, they're going to say things, they're going to act in ways that are not what we want. They're going to comment on something on social media. They're going to post something on social media. I mean, it happens now all the time. And if every time something like that happens, we lose our ability to access love, then we're really damaging ourselves. And so it's a really critical and powerful practice to make sure that you can distinguish a damaged ego from a deeply loving heart. A damaged ego from a soul-to-soul connection. And that's your practice. So whenever you find yourself, and by ego, by the way, I don't just mean your arrogance. The ego is the whole sense of who we think we are, that whole identity. It's the part of us that gets hurt, that feels insulted. So ask yourself whenever you have those moments when it's hard to love, see whether you can drop deeply. The upset is here. It's in the stories that the mind is telling you about, oh my God, I can't believe it, and how dare he, and how dare she, and that was so mean. And see if you can just drop deeper. Drop into your heart. Can you still feel the love? And then drop even deeper. Drop into soul. Drop into spirit. Drop into consciousness. It's a very powerful meditative practice. It's great for your relationships. And it's great for your own self-awareness. And that's why, one of the beautiful teachings that Pujya Swamiji always gives is about the importance of having a breathing room, a spiritual corner that we go to. So if you've got a fight going on, or there's something, a situation, that you can actually remove yourself from it temporarily. To go and sit somewhere where you can actually re-anchor yourself. Because if you don't have that, then you're in that fight of mind to mind, injured ego to injured ego. And you end up saying things that you later really regret and losing yourself completely. And being able to just Go to your breathing room, go to your sacred space. Enables you to drop deeper. So create that. It may be just a corner of a room. But create a space that you can go to reconnect. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. So much love to you all.